I'm Nana Farika. The time has come for the lioness to tell her story from her viewpoint and tell the world who Queen Omega is. This is the lion's voice.
The time has come for the lioness to tell her own story.
Well, lion voice, tell them that's the people first choice. Lion voice, make the lioness them feel nice. Lion voice, with the lion cubs we sacrifice. Lion voice, got to show the people them the life. Lion voice. Well, Haile Selassie the first of the Almighty, and this is the Jahzani Kush, and the mission, that's the restoration of the black family. Yeah. Who Jah bless me, say no one curse. Black woman, it's time to merge. Black redemption, we're on the verge. Well, I don't care what you heard. Haile Selassie first, him no second or third. Cause even when their lines are blurred, the eyes stand straight, no bend, no curve. And him give you the love you deserve. Him don't come fi dominate, him come fi serve. Showed us the way home, I live his words. But I can't do it alone, so black woman, let's merge. High tall, sip and herbs, we merge. Massage fi calm her nerves, we merge. Together all demon purge, we merge. Another family emerge, we merge. We spoke and no speech was slurred, we merge. We agreed that Babylon's absurd, we merge. We had pain, now we feel cured, we merge. Hail the king, now she conquered. Well, I don't care what you heard. Haile Selassie first, him no second or third. Cause even when their lines are blurred, the eyes stand straight, no bend, no curve. Greetings in that divine name of His Imperial Majesty, Emperor Haile Selassie I. Glory and honor in the name of His chosen Queen, Empress Menen. My name is Kwasi Bonsu, aka the Jahzani Kush, aka Ras Kwasi, aka the Reading Ras, aka the Pan-African Happy Man. I'm a creative industry attorney, I'm an author, I'm an artist, I'm an actionist, and right now, I am the host of Lion Talk Live. Welcome to the Lion Voice Network and welcome to Lion Talk Live. We have a very special program tonight. We are celebrating the Earth Strong of the Queen of Queens, Wolete Beresford, Empress Menen, Empress Menen. Yes, it's a great joy all over the world, all over social media. Queen of Queens is getting her due. We're going to get deep into the life of the Queen of Queens tonight. We have our second panel ever on the platform. And this is going to be a royal panel. I'm so elated to bring this panel to the family. I know that this one is going to be viewed through the four corners of creation. And we are happy because we want to educate, enlighten, and also entertain everyone out there in the Rastafari Pan-African family. So before we get into that, I just want to take time and big up the Lion Pride on Patreon. Big up yourself. If you subscribe, you're part of the Lion Pride. We're building a movement here. I have to big up particularly our Lion Pride on Patreon, those who are, 5, 10, 25, 45, whatever they can afford a month, they're investing in Rastafari independent media. The item are seeing what's happening. You saw that Israel bombed the Iranian consulate in Syria, an act of war. I've been talking about World War III on this platform for some time. It's just now you start seeing the headlines in the mainstream media. I'm a Gideon. We've been saying it from them time. They're chanting it. All of these things. It's happening. So more than ever, we need our own independent media to create our own narrative, to hear from the frontline workers, not the propaganda, not the mix-up. We want to see Rastafari highlighted in that highlighted light, and we're doing it here on the Lion Voice Network. So again, I just want to big up everyone, and I know because some people have come in the Patreon, they've fallen off. It's rough. So, you know, I have an attitude of gratitude. If you come for a month and I never see the eye again, we still give thanks. We are, again, just getting started here. We want to bring news program, animation, movies, all kind of Rastafari-centric programming. So we are just getting the housekeeping out of the way, family. I have my guests ready to come forward with their word sound. So I want the Lion Pride on Patreon, the whole family to just help I to welcome this esteemed panel. Bring forward the panel, Lion Voice, and see the Lionesses. Tonight we are highlighting the word sound of our lionesses, the African village, manifesting. Yes, looking forward. We are looking forward. Bring them forward, please. Yes. Haile, look at that. The daughters of Zion, Haile. So, family, this is a joy for I and I because I respect these sistren so much, and I'm so honored that they have come on this platform this evening to have this reasoning with me and the family tonight. So I'm just going to ask each of the item for the Lion Voice, Lion Pride. The two sistren on the bottom, you know, they are regulars. They're here. You know, we've built that energy. So I'm going to allow, you know, our first time presenter, Dr. Asantewaa Oppong Wadie. Please introduce yourself and just give the background there.
Yes, I give thanks to Jahzani Kush. It's so such a blessing to be on this platform and to be with your audience this evening. Blessed Earth Strong of Her Majesty. I am Asantewaa Oppong Wadie, local to Chicago, and the founder of Empress Menen Day Chicago here in the city. This year we're having our 8th annual celebration recognition of Empress Menen's Earth Strong in this city. My daytime job is as a historian. I teach history on the college level at a local university here in the city of Chicago. And beyond that, my work is really in community, serving as founder also of Indigo Nation Homeschool Association, a homeschooling group specific to the needs of African American families on the homeschooling journey. And then ABBA Education Consultant, where we work with schools, universities, community centers to bring content into the classroom that is relevant to us as Black people. So that's really been my, 2 handfuls, my job for the past 20 years or so. Was just making sure that our community has what we need. There's no place or space that we won't go to research and get the information that our community needs for growth. So give thanks for the opportunity to share. It's such a blessing. I want to greet the entire panel. It's so beautiful. Yes. And I must say something about Empress Menen's chronicles that really grew out of the demand of the people who came in the city of Chicago saying, like, once a year is really not enough. Well, we need to learn about the Empress much more completely. And it was just trying to meet that demand that really forced, it wasn't on my trajectory to create Empress Menen Chronicles, but it was created to give people something they could take home and go deeper with the Empress. Do I think people need a better relationship with Empress Menen? Absolutely. Absolutely. I think we only serve to gain the more we know about her. Everyone across even like racial lines, but I'm really speaking here of, you know what I'm saying, different religions, different faith traditions, everyone everyone will learn, will grow from their relationship with her.
Mighty, mighty, mighty. Give thanks, give thanks. And we're just gonna ask that to mute your mic in between so we keep down the feed forward. Rases, Dr. Wolete, can you please introduce the I self?
Yes, greetings and blessings, global Rastafari family. Greetings and blessings, Dr. Asantewaa Oppong Wadie. Greetings and blessings, Rases, Dr. Jahzani Kush, and give thanks to Jahzani Kush. Give thanks for the opportunity to talk with the audience, Lion Pride, about I's mother in celebration of her earth light. I am Dr. Wolete Beresford. Most of the eyes know I am a librarian, researcher by trade. I live in the DMV, Baltimore, Washington area. I'm currently the chairperson of the Universal Development of Rastafari, IDOR, and I am the founder and the owner of a Pan-African bookstore and cultural items store in Baltimore called Yeshimabet Books and Things. So I give thanks for the opportunity to be here, this light, to reason with the eyes. So give thanks. Give thanks for the mighty work that the eye is doing, Jahzani Kush. It is indeed laudable. Give thanks.
Give thanks. And I want to publicly thank the I, Rases, Dr. Wolete, because anytime I feel like I need to rest, Dr. Wolete, with the encouragement, I mean, it really means a lot. She's a member of our Lion Pride on Patreon. So it's not just talk. She really sees the vision and is really supported I as a brethren in every aspect. So I just want to salute the I, in person. Now we have Rases Dr. Jahzani Kush coming from South Florida. We had the Roots and Reasoning, one of my favorite outings right now, may I tell you. And she's been doing a monthly event, so much powerful work. Please just introduce thyself to the family.
Greetings, Rastafari. I am Rases Dr. Jahzani Kush. I am the CEO and founder of Lalabella Institute, which is an institute that focuses on culturally responsive education for the Rastafari community and for the Black community at large. I'm also the co-founder and the former educational director for the Haile Selassie First Learning Center here in Miami, which we founded about 17 years ago, if not longer. I'm also the author of Roaring Lionesses, Rastafari Woman, Journeys of Self-Liberation. I'm the author of Blue Fire, The Ascension of the Jah and Rastafari, and my most recent work, which is my first fiction work, is called Between the Fire and the Ice. I am also the founder of the Empress Menen Blue Fire Leadership Eye Treat, which is an eye treat for Rastafari women. This is our fifth one. We just had last strong in, as a matter of fact. I am also the founder of Zipporah, which is a priestess, an organization focusing on priestesses and prophetesses in Rastafari. Is there any? I think I'm missing one more thing.
This is why I love the family, because we're all doing so many works.
Yes,
The order. Did the eye block on the order?
Good things. I'm also the founder of the first Rastafari Women's Order, which is akin to a sorority, which is the Blue Fire Order of Empress Menen. And I'm so very proud to say that we had our first line who ascended to the title of Rases. Ones might know that I carry that title, but I'm not the only one now. There are 3 sistren who ascended to the ranks of Rases, and that stands for Royal Ethiopian, that's with an A, sistrens, exemplifying stately strength. And so I want to congratulate those royal Raseses, Mama Wolete, Mama Thea, and Mama Karima. So yes, Rastafari.
Yeah, I want to do a whole separate reasoning on that topic.
Sure you do. Sure you do.
Because Ras mean head, you know, I mean, we're going to touch that. These are my sisters and my family. We're going to get into them. But tonight, we are here for the royal Queen of Queens, you know, to really...
I pray thee. I would be remiss if I didn't take this opportunity. I say Ras mean head. Mm-hmm. Rases means head wrap.
Oh my goodness.
This is why we will have to reason, because we want some clarity on it. But I love the fact that the family is coming together, organized and centralized more than anything to I is important, because as I said earlier, we're in serious times. You know, Armageddon is real out there and it's not a plaything. So, you know, any ones that are coming together right now to do positive work, IMAN is not going to be an obstacle in any way, shape, or form. So I want to start this reasoning, though, with a question. And the format that we're going to use, we're going to just reason. I'll put out questions. I asked these sistren to come forward because each has a particular area of expertise. So, you know, feel free to jump in. Where if you don't, you know, if that's not your area, feel free to just hold firm. We're also going to open the comment section to questions. We want this to be a community. So put your comment in the chat so that we can, you know, we can make this a gathering. This is global. We want to use the technology in a way that's constructive. We know that Babylon is using it for a destructive purpose, but now the Rastafari family can come together and we can reason and enlighten each other about the Queen of all Queens. So the first question is, who is Empress Menen? Who is Empress Menen? And I open the floor, so feel free, you know, to get us started.
Yes, Well, Empress Menen is the divine consort of Kadamawi, Haile Selassie I. She is the Negist of Negists. For I, as Rastafari woman, she's the role model. She is I role model. However, I see her also as a symbol of Kushite identity. You understand? So when I see Empress Menen, I don't just see her as the woman who manifested in this time. I see her as hailing from an ancient bloodline. And as a result of that, when I honor her, we're honoring all of the African queens, especially from that Kushite line, who have stood firm and who have helped to create divine matriarchy.
I just want to add to that reasoning, you know, that she is, and here I'm going to lean a little bit on my historical background. She is the leading without competition and without companion on the level that she achieved while on her earth trod of the 20th century, the leading woman on the planet of the 20th century. And I know that can be argued back and forth, but for me, it is sealed. Her works, her contribution to humanity, her outreach sealed that, right? And I think that the more we look at the details of what her earth prod was like, it becomes unquestionable who she is. She manifested in our time, as we see from ancient Kemet, ancient Kush that was already mentioned, as Aset, this foremost woman coming and really ushering in, protecting the throne that played such a pivotal role in the lives of the people in the 21st century, 22nd, 23rd, right? So someone had to mother that process, and that was her.
Give thanks, give thanks. Any other sound? Dr. Wolete, process, Wolete?
So yes, so the sistrens blocked Haile and true sounds of the Empress, and I second, third, and fourth those sounds. I would like to add a small piece. I wasn't sure if there was going to be an opportunity later in the reasoning to block it, but she is also the land empress and the owner of so many lands in Ethiopia. When I trod to Ethiopia in 2019, I believe it might have been about 5 years ago, I had an opportunity to seat up at the archives. The full name escapes I. And if Asantewaa can chime in, but and I seated up at the archives and were able to gain access to the not the deeds for the property, but the taxes that ones and ones were paying for that property. And I have images of her seal, the seal that bears her crown, another variation of her seal that includes a heart, the tax ledgers, the ledgers from the payments, just hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pages. And understanding that she is the daughter of the Jahzani of Ambasal, Jahzani Asfa.
Yes.
Jahzani is the oldest title of nobility in Ethiopia. It is the most ancient title. Yes. And that is the line that Empress Menen comes from. And the Jahzani is the holder of the mountain fortress of Ambasal.
Haile.
Yes. So when I saw the records for the land, it was unimaginable the amount of land that Empress Menen inherited as the daughter of the family ruling that Ambasal region, the entire mountain fortress. And I read in my research that at some point at different times, the Jahzani would not only be responsible for the mountain fortress of Ambasal, but it would extend into other regions. So this was like a broad reach, right? So many of those lands, as the gold bead of the family, the gold bead of Negus Mikael, she inherited these lands. So she came to the marriage, and I know I will go further into it. I just wanted to touch on that. Wendy, who is she? She is the owner of land.
Because I want to take this conversation. Who is this little princess that grows up in this palace? The granddaughter of King Mikael, the hero from the Battle of Adwa. I want to take her down to, so we can tell the story, because I think her story is epic. It look, I look at it as like almost an epic fantasy story, but it starts with some heavy responsibility and most likely some sadness, because we have a young girl who, the burdens of being nobility. And I think when we say nobility, sometimes we just use it casually. But as you say, that comes with land, title, millions and millions of dollars of equity, people to take care of who inhabit these lands, because before His Majesty rose the Ethiopian from peasants to citizens, there was no ownership of land. You lived at the behest of these massive landowners who control the kingdoms. So who is this little girl? Let's speak to Empress Menen, the responsibilities, child marriage. Before she has any agency, her family is already making political alliances based on her station. So, let's talk about that, and I'm opening it up to anyone to jump in.
Well, let me say that it's often and probably not the fault of the people who have read her biography, but more so the tone of the translation of the official biography that is put out at the request of His Majesty at the end of her Earth Trod. This is then changed from Amharic into English with footnotes. We know her as Sister or Miss Angela Parnell will put her own footnotes, and in doing that, create a tone. And so I think it was Sonia Sanchez, known here in the United States as a poet, one of the first teachers of Black studies. She said, I hope that there is no occasion where white folks have an opportunity to tell the story of my life. And she said, I just want to clarify while I'm still here that I don't want that. And there are reasons for that, because if you set a tone of sadness, like, oh my God, look what happened to her, this is what the reader walks away with. You know what I'm saying? So I don't see it as a miss. I don't see tragedy in the way she was born into royalty and received a royal education. So it's very important to say that Empress Menen was born into a royal family, right? And was expected to carry out the duties of royalty. Amongst those things were being able to read and write on a proficient level so that you could, one, handle all of the wealth and the responsibility that came with being royalty. So she was homeschooled like other royal children, right? She was, schooled in the language of the church also. So she also read Gez. So I'm saying that if we right away, begin to use our American lens or Western European lens and begin to say, oh my God, at 11, she was given into child marriage. I am sure, as Empress Menen has said herself, this is not something I would repeat. She tells Sylvia Pankhurst this. I don't want anyone here married, she said, before the age of 18. She gives that number. So I'm sure that this wasn't the grandest thing about her life, but it's also not wrapped in sadness. This made for a sturdy woman.
Okay.
For a strong woman.
I like that sound. And this is why, family, you can see the caliber of the panel. On Lion Voice, we don't do nothing surface around here. You know what I mean? We are here to really dig deep into the core of this trad and really highlight and have the reasonings so that we are equipped and we are empowered as we walk through this Gideon. Does anyone else want to block any other sound on that topic?
Yes, concerning the child marriages, usually when I read of those traditions, it's usually followed by the statement, as was the custom, as was the tradition. Yes, indeed, I cannot look upon traditions and customs with a pitiful eye. I must acknowledge that was the order of the day until it wasn't. Yes, right? So even those that were participants or those within the space, they didn't see it as such. It is a custom. It is a tradition. That's just what was at that time, and the glory for I is the finale, you know, where Empress Menen weds the Rastafari Jah, or the God, you know. So yeah, so it was all worth it, you know. So and I said,
and that's where we're going to take the reasoning, is that meeting, because we also, this comes from, you know, interaction, King Michael being the king of Wolo. And before I go there, I want to block anything on that topic before we move on? Rases, Dr. Jahzani. Okay, give thanks. So yeah, so in terms of the meeting now, the young Ditchers match at the time, Tafari, he is, you know, by all estimations, already a legend, because in that society, the word travels quickly. He's wearing out his teachers because he wants to learn. He's you know, seeking out knowledge from every corner, every elder, you know, and Lijayasu, Nigos Michael are watching and want to make sure that he can be trusted, because in those days, you know, there were wars for the throne. You know what I mean? It wasn't a stable transition of power, and rarely did you have transitions of power from father to son. You know, the kingdoms were vying for power. Theodros' son did not get to sit on the throne. Emperor Johannes' son did not get to sit on the throne. You know, Menelik offspring did not sit on the throne. So it wasn't a stable chad. Everybody's watching everyone talk about the meeting and the union of the son of Ras Makonnen, who from the age of 13 basically had to raise himself, and Princess was Zero Menen. Floor is open.
Yes, I like to talk about this particular meeting a lot in my reasonings and lectures. And I mostly look at it from a astrological perspective. I do a reasoning on the lion and the ram, looking at Haile Selassie I as the Leo and Empress Menen as the Aries. And having looked at the two charts, or just even looking at the compatibility of these zodiac signs, you know that there's no greater match than for each other than those two. And they're two fire signs, by the way. You know, you look at the Aries possessing leadership qualities, very loyal, you know, very headstrong, which is something that a lot of ones, I think when Rastafari people, for the most part, when we were introduced to Empress Menen, especially in the earlier years, we were told that she was very, you know, she was always referred to as humble and just kind of meek, which is really the antithesis of the Aries energy. And then with the Leo, you know, being royal, being the king of the jungle, you know, and so you think about these two energies merging. And I even go a little deeper and I reference, you know, the deities, what these particular deities represented in ancient Kush. For example, you have the Leo or the lion represented by the deity of Petamec, and then you have the deity Amun or Amon represented by the ram. So you even see these same Kushite deities represented in ancient times, and then we see them coming together. Now, some people may say, well, they're both male deities, but I would caution ones not to get hung up on the gender, but it is energies that we're focused on, because even though Amun is considered a male deity, the energy is that of a nurturer. You see, so if you take away the gender, which we know that's where everything is headed in this dispensation, is not so much about gender but energies, then you can see how even in ancient times we had the pairing of these two energies. And so I often think about a very young Menen having gone through what she has gone through in her life, the divorces, the death of a husband. And I think about a very young, energetic Tafari, right? Who has now been given the governorship of Harar. And he says very specifically in his autobiography that he only seeks a wife after having had that governorship for at least a year, after things having been stabilized, there are no upheavals happening, and then he knows the next step is to seek a queen or a wife at this time. So I see her being very thoughtful and introspective about her life. And I see her, I can almost envision it, her meeting Tafari and knowing the potential that he has, and having had these other marriages that did not work for whatever reason, and much older than her. And then you have this young, vibrant, very astute and very focused young man, and she decides, yes, I will choose him. Because even though we are told that it was possibly and which I believe that it was an arranged marriage, there's something about choosing when a woman chooses. And I feel very much that she chose. And the reason I can say that is because Haile Selassie himself points out that her allegiance was to him, as opposed to her family, which, you know, they definitely needed somebody on the throne. If it wasn't going to be Lijasu, it could be Menen. So Negus Mikael had like a win-win situation happening here. But even with that, he makes a concerted effort. You have to be very astute at analyzing what Haile Selassie says about Empress Menen. It's not a lot, but what he does say is very powerful, that her allegiance was to him. So, alluding to the fact that she chose. And I think that's what made their union so powerful, was because they both had a part in their destiny, the destiny that would become, right, the beauty for the Rastafari nation, for I and I to see that Jah and Jahs coming together. So I don't want to talk off all the talk, because I know Asantewaa and Wolete definitely have some.
I love it. This is heaven for I. Any other songs that the item want to block on that love story?
Yeah, I would just add, I'm sorry, so let's go forward, Dr. Wolete.
It was just 2 seconds. 2 seconds, I pray thee. I was just going to say that, and I double checked today. I was just going to say that with the Jahzani Amdi Ali Abadeyas, the first husband, this is the one that she was divorced from, and Jantira, the first was Jahzani Ali Muhammad of Cherecha. And the second was Jahzani Amdi Ali Abadeyas. And of course, we know that the popular third was Ras Leol Sagad Atnaf Sagad. I wanted to say that after having 3 arranged marriages, 2 prominent noblemen from Wollo and 1 prominent from Shoa, I think by the 4th, and of course, she was the apple of Negus Mikael's eye. She totally was the gold bead. And I'm sure by the 4th, she was able to say, grandfather, take away Leul Sagad Atnaf Sagad and give unto I Tafari. I want Tafari. I want to choose. You've chosen for me. You've chosen and you've chosen and you've chosen. May I now choose, grandfather, please? And grandfather said yes. You just go. You can choose.
Because it said in the history that that Lijayasu and Negus Mikael, they noticed the chemistry. So obviously reasoning and interaction was taking place, and they thought it would be advantageous. Dr. Asantewaa, the floor is for the eye.
Yeah, I think right along those same reasonings as everyone has said. This was a strategic thing that Lijiasu thought he was doing in arranging their meeting. But immediately upon the first meet, if we follow the lines of her biography, in both of them, which both of them are narrated or written by the same person, Yared Michael, even though they've been translated by other people, he's the original author. It is said immediately they notice as a couple and the people around them notice. And so Lijiasu saw like, oh, we could use this, right? Let's get him. Let's him and her. Let's get them in Harar, far away from the capital, and essentially nullify that threat to the throne that he might come. Because people already saw the growing presence and power in Djazmaj. And they saw it coming. They could see it and sense it. So he wanted that threat far away. And he thought he had taken care of that problem. But as he's thrown off the throne, and his father, Ras Mikael, who become King Mikael of Wollo, decides that, wait a minute, I'm not going to sit down for this for, his grandfather's throne to be taken from him. I'm going to rush. I mean, for me, it indicates that the Wollo kingdom and soldiers were strong enough to take on the national, soldiers and to essentially wage war against the nation.
Ancient. Remember that the Wollo cavalry is the legendary cavalry. You don't ramp with Wollo horsemen. Them.
Right.
These are, these are the top Oromo cavalry in the land. They ride sideways upon them horse. Them can do everything where you want to do. And as you said, this is when the Rasses and the kings, they had independent armies. The armies were not loyal to the central government. Right. These kingdoms paid tribute to the central government, but other than that, they ran their kingdoms autonomously. The Menelik and these other rulers had no say in Wollo. It's Ras Michael or King Negos Mikael who run Wollo. So this is one of the epic battles in the history when the kingdom of Wollo marches on Addis Ababa.
Yes. And they approach Empress Menen, who is then pregnant, and say to her, like, first of all, the counselors told then Rastafari that you can't wage war against somebody's grandfather. You're with his granddaughter. You know what I'm saying? Put her aside. And so he chose in that moment, saying, "No, I'm not doing that." And then when Empress Menen, who is then Princess Menen, is approached with the same proposal, like, you know what, get rid of this man. We get you another husband. You done been through enough. She chose. She says no. And even under the threat, if we are to believe some of what is written in the biography and the interpretation that is added there, and I've been told by members of the family that interpretation is not entirely true, only partially true. But if we are to believe what is written there, she was threatened to be put out of the crown lands. And she said, just let me have this child. And I'm going to go find my husband. I'm fine, And so a very brave move from a very vulnerable woman to turn on the will of her family. And also for, then Rastafari to turn on the will of his counselors. Yeah. Like, listen, she's the one. I said she's the one. And she said he's the one. So they found each other. They found something really beautiful and divine that is still resonating.
And this is a symbol of Ethiopian unity because she was not from Showa. He is not from Wollo, but yet still the love conquered, and really would change the face of this ancient empire, bringing it into modernity. So I really love this. If you have any comments, family, please put the comments in the comment section. We have an esteemed panel tonight. I'm the only person who don't have the doctor. I tell you, everyone here is well. Actually, I'm a Juris doctor, so I take it forward. I'll be a doctor up here. family, we are giving the deep analysis. This is not a surface reasoning. If you have not subscribed to the platform, please subscribe to the platform. We are building a movement. All right. So this love, and we also have to mention that there was no guarantee at this time that Haile Selassie would sit on the throne. So this was not a sure deal. When they're making these decisions, there's no guarantee that the army in Addis Ababa was going to beat Wollo, the kingdom of Wollo. You know what I mean? So this is not this is an act of faith, and talk about what happens after this epic battle.
Well, I will add here that this is where the current living members of the royal family have said that there's a lot of untruth. Empress Menen's biography said that His Majesty, having defeated Ras Mikhael, takes him into custody. And he does that by sending monks who, ask him to, just please surrender. We don't want this to be terrible. And that Negus Mikhael, decides to, imprison the monks. They have flatly refused that and asked me to do not repeat that. That's a lie. So we still are figuring out what happened, how Ras Mikhael, who will become Negus, actually surrenders, how that surrender happens. But we do know that it does happen, right? And that then we have a pretty much consistent government for a little while with Empress Wadie II and her plenipotentiary, Rastafari, who will become Negus. And will be her spokesperson internationally. And for me, I listened in a lot of Rastafari circles before I heard and before I researched and read that every time His Majesty was crowned, when he was given prince, Empress Menen was given princess. When he was given king, Empress Menen was given queen. When he was given emperor, she was given empress. So they are both triple crowns.
Ooh.
The triple crown does not belong only to His Majesty.
Okay.
She's also triple crown.
Okay. We're going there, family. We're going there, family. This is exclusive because I know most of us were not aware of this information. So I love that. So let's talk about the crowning, because this is when you come into Rastafari, at least my generation, this was something that we heard about, king and queen crowned same time. He broke with the tradition. His Majesty writes about it. He doesn't write much about Empress Menen through the autobiography, but he takes the time to say that he had to reason, with the priests and the elders and make special provision to change a long-standing tradition. And for those who know about ancient societies, changing a tradition is not something you just do willy-nilly. It's not, and it speaks to how versed His Majesty was in terms of because he has to make an argument as to why at this time, it's going to change, and he can't just unilaterally do that without creating corruption or disunity in the church. So he has to do it diplomatically, as he always does. But let us talk about the crowning of Empress Menen and what that represents, this triple crown. I'm opening the floor.
Yes, I always cite the crowning of Empress Menen from a very esoteric space. I see Empress Menen, you know how Haile Selassie talks about Empress Menen being like unto Sarah, right?
Yes. Yes.
I see Empress Menen in the capacity of mother, sister, and wife.
Okay.
And so what that means in the ancient Kushite traditions, if you know anything about the coronations of the Kushite kings, the mothers had to be there. There was really no coronation without the mother. You understand? And Haile Selassie having lost his mother at such an early age. Empress Menen fulfilled that role also, just in her nurturing. You understand? Just he speaks about her being his advisor, so she definitely serves that a multiplicity of roles in his life. So when I think about having the ancient Kushite pharaoh's crown and how the mother must be a part of that procession because it's null and void. It doesn't even happen. So having her crowned alongside him to I, and this is just I going into I heavens, is really just a reenactment of that Kushite mother being a part of that whole coronation scene. But in this case, she is crowned alongside him as his divine consort. I also see Empress Menen, and I know later on someone might, or the I might talk about her relinquishing this crown, right? And I cite that the crown, of course, the crown means something. So I don't want to say that it didn't mean anything, but I want to say that her role as Jahzani supersedes to I that of Empress. So because she is mother, she is Jahzani, she is sister, she is Empress. She possesses so many roles, you understand, to really get caught up in her having one. I think is not a very wise thing. You know, when we look at her, we must look at her in her totality. But also, we must understand that if we had to trump anything, that role of Jahzani, you understand that role of Iritical Negis, which is what I talk about in my first book. That is her role. So the giving up of that crown, people look at it and they say, "Oh, what a wonderful thing! You know, what a virtuous thing! What a all of these wonderful synonyms." But I cite she had done her job because when she chanted in Jerusalem, you understand, for the victory to be, that was her ultimate role, and that was that of Jahzani. So Empress, yes, it's a wonderful title, and Haile Selassie the first brought forward that ancient Kushite tradition when he had her crown. She had to be involved.
Give thanks, give thanks. Floor is open.
Yes, Empress says, I wanted to block a sound regarding her crown. And though she gave up that crown, and indeed Jahzani trumps Empress, she used her crown as a symbol on her, let me see if I'm able to share it, I pray thee, on her seal. In the IC?
It's very light. Bring it a little closer, bring it closer.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, yes.
That's the I cited.
Yes,
so this goes forward to the sound of the triple crowning, also representing Empress Menen, because this is her crown. This is not the crown of Kadamawi.
Yes.
This is her crown on her symbol there, and also her crown once more. Let me see how good.
Yes.
Yeah, I cited.
Yes,
Right, and these are the seals that appeared. It's not the only seal that appeared on the documents for her, but definitely this kind of solidified in the irids that indeed these are the Empress Menen lands, and her seal was
crown land.
Yeah, the crown land. Yes,
Yes.
And that's her crown. That's the crown of Empress Menen. Yes, so give thanks.
Give thanks. So mighty.
Yeah, give thanks. You know, I really am indebted, and I really need to take this moment to thank Dr. Wolete for even just the idea that we can make it to Ethiopia, because it wasn't even something just in the course of my life that I had a plan for. I'd already been to other parts of Africa, but I didn't have a plan for that. And I can say that the moment that we were there at National Archives and they said, we have the papers that are from her desk, surreal, still it's just feeling unreal. And then I don't know what I thought they would bring out. I thought maybe a folder or so. They came wheeling a cart, right? With reams and reams and reams of paper, understanding that her crowning, to be crowned an empress, is to be given crown lands, as was rightly mentioned, but also to be given your own standing army.
Yes.
And your crown lands, because they are now occupied possibly by people who are paying taxes to you, which is what the bulk of the letters were, management of it, have the money's been paid, etc. Who's moving in, who's moving out, but she also has a budget beyond that as an empress, you know what I'm saying? And so if we look at her titles, like I love the chanting of His Majesty's titles. And I remember like being so young in this movement, thinking, are they making this up? I started as, like a Rastaman's queen and not like a Rasta queen,
Okay.
I remember like looking at Raswil, like, where did they get that from? Who gives them the authority to say that, And he was like, those are his crown titles, right? They're not making that up. And absolutely, that's absolutely true and carries out in the historical file. But also Her Majesty had crown titles and names.
Call them.
Supreme and all just majesty. That's a crowned title. Lady of value, a crowned title. And then this title that, there's fear in representing. And I don't want to try to say it in Amharic, but it translates loosely in English as Queen of Kings. So I love it when I hear the sister say Queen of Queens. You know what I'm saying? But that's not her title. Her title is Queen of Kings. And if we translate that, we transliterate that, it's literally the woman king. It's literally the woman king. When we look at it, I will spell it out here for our audience if they can see our notes. It literally means the female king or ruler, right? So I remember on asking my Amharic source, like, translate that. And he was like, this title was never given to Empress Menen. Very rarely in our history have we seen this title given to anyone at a crowning, right? But then we go through the text when she is specifically being interviewed and she introduces herself as such, Queen of Kings.
This is this is exclusive, family. Lion Voice alone, you're gonna hear them reasoning. Tell you.
And so I for me, it sealed it. It sealed it. It sealed it. His Majesty said that it was decided after consultation.
Okay.
That they would change this whole process. Possibly, I'm injecting here. This is myself. What has happened since the Ethiopian nation went into Christendom? But whatever it was, His Majesty said, after consultation, I asked, I inquired, I looked inside, I did research, and it was decided that the Empress would be crowned on the same day as the Emperor in the same place. Remembering that when you read the order of the coronation, the priest does not typically, and according to history, anoint the Empress. You know what I'm saying? This is done by the king. The king does that. The emperor does that on the third day in a different place. So when they went to reach for Empress Menen's crown, the priest first handed it to His Majesty, who was just newly crowned. Like, this is really your job. Are you sure? I want you to officially say in front of people that I should do this. And he said, it is my truthful will that she shares my glory. It's my truthful will. It's my truthful will. Absolutely. I stand with what Dr. Jahzani Kush has said, that he was returning to a tradition that is long standing. Absolutely. Your mother must declare your right to the throne at your coronation, all along the Nile. We see continuity from top to bottom, from inside Africa right to the borders of the Mediterranean. We see that continuity over hundreds of years.
Man, woman, and child.
Years. Your mother must declare your right. So with his mother not being present, I absolutely stand with that assertion. Empress Menen fulfilled that role. Although when you pour through the coronation order, you don't see where her voice is notated. Several people have made efforts to obtain the part of the tape that shows Empress Menen's crowning. No, with no avail. But
very sacred moment.
Yeah.
And who knows what time will reveal. But yeah, you're correct. We've never seen that footage. Now, Empress Menen, His Majesty is very clear though that she did not receive the anointing oil, and that he was still the head, and this was not a co-rulership. This was also stated in the revised constitution and the initial constitution. Now, how I see that is, Haile Selassie, Empress Menen to I, they are one flesh. And we'll talk about how she stepped in and assumed certain of the duties of government to show that, in terms of competence, she was able to fill in when His Majesty was on the war front. However, it was careful. And this is why, because this channel, I have mostly a male viewership according to the analytics. And I'm really trying to cultivate the Rastafari man to stand up, as a head and to lead, to lead his family, lead his queen. Yes, the queen is there, but I don't want the brethren them to not know their responsibility. Now, I have an esteemed panel here of powerful sistren. I want the item to give the item sound in terms of why Empress Menen did not receive the anointing oil. What is the messaging at the coronation? Because it was a detail that was included in the autobiography. And again, it doesn't say in the constitution that I and Empress Menen are the head of this government and so forth and so on. How the item cite this reasoning? Give thanks.
Just much Kwasi, I'm going to backpedal a little bit to the sound that was being blocked about her titles.
Yes, please.
I was reading where Empress Menen and His Majesty shared some titles. It says, this is the crowning, and it says, the day before Empress Menen received the divine coronation on the same day as the emperor, she joined him in a night of fasting and constant prayer until the early morning hours as they prepared to take on the mantles or the titles, as they prepared to take on the titles such as elect of Jah, elect of Yah, it says, Rose of Sharon, bright and morning star, and the light of the world. Yes, so the way this is written, those are shared titles. They said, as they appeared to take on. So it goes forward to the one flesh, to the melding of the two and becoming one. Relevant to the titles that were taken on at St. George's Church in Addis Ababa, November 2nd, 1930. Yes.
Mighty. So, and I want to just acknowledge before we go on, we have 33 people on here live. This is a record for our live. I have gratitude, even though the numbers are small. I just want to say we give thanks for the family checking in. Put where you're watching from in the comments so we know who's here, who's checking in from the family. We're having a very crucial reasoning on our divine mother, Empress Menen. This is something that I think we all benefit from as we trod forward into this Armageddon. So the floor is open. and we're talking about the crowning, the anointing, and the balance, in terms of, because this has implications in terms of how I and I governing our Rastafari families as well, because this is the archetype, our mother and father provide the archetype in terms of how I and I govern our household. So the floor is open.
Yeah, I would just like to add that line in His Majesty's biography that says, except for the royal anointing, which we know were 7 oils that were put on His Majesty, that every other part of the coronation, Her Majesty and His Majesty were together in, except for this royal anointing that designates the current leader and ruler. I don't think anyone, not even Empress Menen, is in position or it has the will to say that he was not the sovereign ruler of this nation. But we are saying that if you look from antiquity coming, the person out front is indeed out front and designated out as such, but it is the family. We really have royal ruling families. It is the family that really is the governing structure of the nation. So I don't see it as tiered where we have like first, second, and he's first and she's second. I don't see it as such. I see it as let's present to the world the singular person who is responsible for whom everything comes through, right? But it is the whole group. It is not unlike any other person that comes to power, say in the United States. The singular person receives all of the accolades, but they govern with others. You know what I'm saying? And so that's what we're saying, is that she is part of the governing structure. You know what I'm saying? And I have taken hit after hit for saying this, but it is clear just from her titles.
The history is clear. The history is clear. Empress Menen did govern, so give thanks for the passion. Wolete? Yes,
I'm wondering, where were the oils placed? What part of the body was the 7 oil anointing for Kadamawi?
I believe it was on his forehead.
It was all 7 on the forehead?
That's my understanding. If someone in the comments knows different, Mecca and I reason it up, but that's my understanding.
Okay. I was really wondering about the Empress not receiving the 7 oils and wondering if it had to do with the sacredness of her temple as feminine, as a woman, where the oils were being placed, and did that have something to do with the priests not anointing her in that way? Wondering.
Yeah, no, I think he ties it to because she did not share in the rulership in terms of the responsibility, and that is why we'll get someone to read it.
Yeah, I got to look that up because so the oils enabled the ruling and the responsibility.
Yeah, pass me the autobiography, Young Tafari. We're gonna go into it tonight.
I have to go into it because you're not going to rule through oils.
Well,
no,
it's something else.
No, this is the symbol, and of course we know that Christ is the anointed one. All of these things.
I understand. I'm just trying to make sense. Everything else was granted with the exception of the oils. So there has to be a really, really logical reason why that wasn't done. The praying and the fasting and the sharing of the titles, they were both the Rose of Sharon. They were both the bright and the morning star. So right. Tradition being changed, and let's just not change that piece. So yeah, I have the question. I'm wondering.
Part of the reading that I have ready says that the procedure for the enthronement of the Empress is today very different from that which used to be in previously According to our historical study, and this is from the biography of His Majesty, according to our historical study of earlier practices, the Empress was not anointed with the oil of kingship on the grounds that she did not share in the rulership with the Emperor. The crown, being merely symbolic, was very small. It was in the palace that the Emperor placed the crown on her head and not in the church. This occurred on the third day, for it was not permitted for her to be crowned on the same day as the emperor. But the text then pivots and says, but now it was determined after consultation and accordingly carried out that except for the regal anointing, the archbishop should place the crown on her and put the diamond ring on her finger, and that this should be on the same day jointly with the coronation of the emperor. So not closing out on this idea that she didn't share in rulership. That was a previous idea that was pivoted from. But again, the royal anointing did not happen for her as it did for him. If any anointing happened, it wasn't recorded.
Okay. This is a good reasoning. I really give thanks. Again, I want anyone in the comments, feel free, ask any questions. We have a lot to get through. I don't want to spend all of the time on this, but these are points. And we're going to, over the years, we're going to come forward to these things and get deeper as we can research, as we learn the Amharic, because we have to do the scholarship in the indigenous language as we go forward to the continent. And you know, I have to tip my hat to Dr. Wolete, Dr. Asantewaa, because they, you know, went to Ethiopia. They went and started this task that generations are going to be tasked with to really bring these things to the light. So I really want to salute the two of the item. And, you know, this is the highest level reasoning on Empress Menen I personally have ever been in. I don't know if this happens every day or around the place, but I personally am, you know, having a very highlighted time just being able to go so deep and having ones whose knowledge is so vast. So we really give thanks. I want to get into the works of Empress Menen, and in terms of you alluded, you know, Proverbs 31 speaks to the virtuous woman. She sees a land, she purchases it, she does this, she does that, bam, bam, bam. And you alluded to her governing many lands and having responsibility for the administration of many lands, and not just having the land, but, you know, from time to time liquidating these lands to build a church, to build a school, you know, so she's managing her finance. And you know, one of the unique things that His Majesty and Her Majesty did is that they took their personal wealth and invested it into the nation. There's no nobility in Ethiopia's history that gave more of their personal wealth and lands. As you know, of course, the highest example would be converting the palace into a university. But talk to us about the works of Empress Menen, and the floor is open.
Well, I know that she opened the first school, the all-girls school in Ethiopia. Let me get the information to be specific. In Addis Ababa. And it was a very high school, you know, as it relates to the education that was pre-loved there, as it relates to the food that they ate, the way that they were treated, and the expectations for the staff. It's almost as if she offered the children or the attendees an education on the level that she received within her royalty. Mm-hmm. I thought I had written down some information about it, but yes, so she definitely opened that school. There were orphanages and churches, patroness of the Red Cross. Just, I mean, works too numerous to even name and list and to frame up and place in a box. Just broad and spanning across all agencies and areas within Ethiopia. I mean, she goes from the tanker that storms the gate to free Haile Selassie to the order of the Queen of Sheba. Just title upon title upon title upon title. Just I's perfect example. That is why I hail her without apology and give her all of the glory. She is the example for I to follow. Yes, I.
Give thanks. The floor is
Yes, I. You know, when you talk about the works that she did, you know, as her daughters, it's important that not only I know these works, but that I also emulate these works. And so, one of the things that she did during the time of the war was, you know, mobilize Ethiopian women. Um, in particular women of affluence, you understand, to be able to financially support some of these efforts that happened during the war. And so with I as the Blue Fire Order of Empress Menen Asfa, we rest on that whole service. You understand, that whole service tribe. We know Rastafari in itself is a service tribe, but we definitely look for sistren who I know are willing to work under the red, gold, and green umbrella of Empress Menen, but a group of women who are willing to lead as well as support efforts like the advocacy of women's rights, just like Empress Menen Asfa. So those works, we can look at them historically, but you know, just looking at them and just being able to identify them, but not emulating them, I think is an issue. So I'm glad that you brought all of her works up because those works are still going on.
Give thanks. Give thanks. We have Freeway Dread popping in from Florida. Big up Freeway Dread. We have Rastafari family hailing from Trinidad, tapping in Roger Gonzalez. We have Sister Carrington, Blissful Love, all TNT. Trinidad, I represent tonight. Yes, family. Yes, giving thanks from Jamaica for I 3 illustrious sisters, Queens Dr. Wolete, Wadie, and Kush. Yes, give thanks. That's Sister Aisha, I family, there in JA. Iras, big up yourself. What makes Empress Menen divine? Explain the divinity. We're going to get there after the work. Yes, Empress Menen owns Gaza by right. Yes, there was properties purchased. We're talking about there. We're gonna go deep, family. Make sure the items stay tuned because Ethiopia owns a lot of land in that region. We're gonna talk about it. What teachings would she want ones and ones to pass on to all women, to each one? Give thanks. Big up. I'm from Philadelphia. So we have the family tuning in. We are talking about the works of Empress Menen. If you have not subscribed to the platform, subscribe to the platform. We are unapologetically Rastafari over here at the Lion Voice Network. No apology. We talk about what we want to talk about. We don't have it as a side topic or a footnote. It's the main topic. Rastafari, independent media family. We are building it in real time. So the works. Let's talk about. Continue. Go ahead.
I want to talk about the fact that Empress Menen came to the throne with a vision.
Yes.
So I've said it in other public speaking events that, you know, Empress Menen suggested these things, namely a girls' school under the leadership of Empress Wadie, and she was told no. And she did not let that vision die in her heart because she was told no. She came to the throne with it like, okay, when it's my turn, I'm gonna do it, right? So she opened the school in October of 1930, ahead of the coronation. This is a woman on a mission. I don't want us to think about a rinky-dink neighborhood school, and I respect neighborhood schools, right? I don't want us to think about that when we think about Empress Menen School for Girls. And I've heard it chanted up in circles like, you know, she opened the school. No, well, I'm talking about opening a Title IV school. I recently got hold of an article where the government of Ethiopia today is asking any girls who pass the national exam of France while attending Empress Menen School, please turn in those certificates. She had a Title IV school teaching all of the standard classical forms of Western education and Ethiopian education. And Ethiopian education. And her girls tested with the French, which was really the lingua franca at the time, and also the dominant force.
Diplomatic language was French. Yes.
Yes. So she had them sit for that exam, and they sat and passed. And although she had to call in foreigners originally to get her school to that level, she said, you must train the teachers here. We don't need you here always, right? And I've had a chance to talk to members of her alumni society who have informed. First of all, her alumni is active here in the United States. It's still here. It is not gone. The alumni are still actively supporting the school. They have said that those were some of the first Black women to attend Oxford was coming out of Empress Menen School. And Stanford. Those were some of the first Black women to do that.
Okay.
Well, we're not talking about a little operation, you know, a 6-room school. You can see some of the pictures online when she's touring her science lab and touring her gym. Right? We're talking about what the highest standard of education that we call Title IV in the United States, right? And it's a dynamic movement to put women, drastically shifting. Now, she didn't invite elite women. Why invite elite women? They already have it. They don't actually think their daughters need education because the money is so abundant. She invited regular working class, what we would call the peasantry, people from that category and class. Imagine the shift. Imagine the shift. The first woman to sit in Ethiopian parliament came through the Empress Menen School, was actually the principal at the Empress Menen School.
From peasant to citizen.
Like a seismic shift she's creating with this school. Not only is she doing that, she's taking on disability or education for the disabled, for the deaf, for the blind. Right? And we need to talk about that in conjunction with the fact that she had adult education, something that really didn't take off in the United States to mid-20th century, where we have, like, you're an adult, okay, your children are raised. Are you just going to sit at home and weave, or are you going to come and let's strengthen you so you can be the backbone of this nation? Wow. She was like, adult women should come. When she first opened that school was empty. No one was signing up. By the time she made her earthly transition, that school had a waiting list. You know what I'm saying? So we're talking about somebody revolutionizing education.
I'm telling you.
And then that piece that I don't want the European thing only. Look, you can't lose your ability to create magic for the Ethiopian table. Our delicacy is world known. We're not giving that up. I'm creating my own cookbook so this will be remembered. Quite often, educated women are actually like, I don't do the domestic things. That's not uncommon here. She wasn't trying to raise those kind of women.
Hot.
Well-rounded women. Yeah. And so what did she do with all those lands? She created churches, schools, hospitals, businesses, resources for the Ethiopian people. First laundromat, first child care center, right? Everything to make women's lives, mills, putting mills in the environment so you don't have to hand grind all your teff, hand grind, take up all your hours so that your mind cannot shift to governorship of your area, of your life, of your family, of your nation. We're going to free up some of that time that you got to hand wash everything. I'm going to put facilities here to ease up women's burden on the domestic level so that some of their attention can be brought to the uplifting of this nation.
Wow.
Yeah.
Sister Dr. Aini says she's taking notes. This is very valuable, family. I'm in heaven on earth because we're not dealing with sky God. We are here living the vision. I really give thanks to be here with my sisters reasoning. Dr. Wolete,
Yeah, I just want to show the Empress with the children and how proud she looks as she smiles at her handiwork. Let me see if I can get it for the eye.
Put it closer. Yes. Give thanks. Mighty works. And one of the things that we need is a state-of-the-art Rastafari schools. We need schools. We need co-ed schools, girls' schools. Can you imagine a Rastafari version of Spelman College? These kind of finishing school. Can you imagine a Rastafari, Morehouse, or Howard, curriculum? There's no reason that we can't do it in this time because we have the trained professionals. And I want to big up Sosa Crew. I know that there are efforts that are happening, but these kind of reasons just show how important we need our institutions.
We have the Lalibela Institute. Don't forget Lalibela was there.
Yes.
The Lalibela Institute, Rases Jahzani's Institute.
We're not going to come off of this line without talking about Lalibela. That we'll seal with when we leave about the action items. We're going to talk about Blue Fire, I Treat, Lalibela. This is the station that we talk about these things because that's I&I institution building. So it really is powerful. Let's talk about the time of exile, the war period. Empress Menen travels to Bath with His Majesty. This is, and I'm actually reading the autobiography again with my son and my daughter. We're doing a family. Mama Shireen is reading with Yah. I'm reading with Tafar, and then we come together and reason on it. And, I was just thinking about at this time when, this is the lowest period when we look at the public reign, and His Majesty's forethought to really document his story, tell his own story, and he says that there will be people that will come to write stories that are not true. And at that time, there was not a whole lot of books on His Majesty in the 1936 when he said it. So it's a prophetic statement that he really saying, I'm going to take the time and document. And Empress Menen is right there. But because of the weather in England, she had to remove herself from that environment and spend the time in Jerusalem. Any songs that the item want to block about that period, because that's the period where she livocates her crown, all of these things that, ones may or may not be familiar with in the history. But I like to assume that not everybody is so versed as we are. And so I just want to touch on the time, because we all go through our exile. We all go through our period where we're down in the valley. And I give thanks that our divine parents showed us how to trod. We have an example of how to stay productive at your lowest moment, how to work for the benefit of your mission, how not to lose faith during these periods of exile. And also, this to I is when they had a diaspora experience. So they experienced what I in the diaspora, the children who have been exiled, who were exiled, who had to grow up in cold environments and, be them, see all of these Europeans around you and you're the only black person in the spaces. Majesty talk about how they were hiding under tables when he come into the restaurant, trying to hide from him and all these things, and how they were dealing with him, trying to humiliate him. Talk about, Empress Menen at this time, because she was just as active as Her Majesty in terms of not letting this detract her from her works.
Yes, I think that during the time of exile is where we first began to see Empress Menen's leadership in overdrive. So one spoke about, her schools and these things, and that definitely exhibited leadership. But I think that while she was in exile, I identified 3 areas of leadership. I created a Empress Menen Asfa Blue Fire leadership model based on, I know that Haile Selassie's leadership is examined for the world. And I also know that many leaders, world leaders, consulted him and emulated his leadership style. But I think that when we talk about Empress Menen, her leadership style hasn't really been analyzed. And so I identified 3 leadership styles. One is her iridical leadership. For ones, that's her spiritual leadership. So we know that that's exemplified by her having the monastery built in Jerusalem, also with her having, the churches, supporting the churches. So we see her leading that way. We also see what I like to call her exigency leadership, which is her emergency leadership. It's her leadership in overdrive. Okay, things are getting really hot. Things are getting hectic. What do I do now? How do I lead? You understand? So we see when she shift gears. And then finally, I identify a pillar of her leadership entitled her Truths and Rights leaderships, where she's advocating for the rights of women, the rights of girls, you understand? And it's that iridical leadership with her being in Jerusalem that I think is a really, really powerful piece, because we see originally, right, some of the articles state that she had planned on going to the forefront of the battlefield with Kadamawi. You understand? And somehow we see a change there. So we don't see her doing a Taitu. We don't see her going to the front lines, literally in battle. But what she does do is she goes to battle iridically. And going to having that monastery built where she is there with those monks, and she is able to hold up, you understand, her part in this war by chanting, you understand, by we know that they hail her as the Queen of Sheba returned when she forwards to Jerusalem. We see all of the clergy, surrounding her. You understand? So everyone at this point is recognizing her as a spiritual or iridical powerhouse. So I would assert that while His Majesty is on the forefront, you understand, fighting, in the physical realm, showing man, she is on the, and I wouldn't even say behind the scenes, but I would say she's in the other realm, you understand, being able to hold up things from that really spiritual source.
Mighty, mighty, mighty. Sister Karima said there's also Priest Isaac Institute of Holistic Knowledge. So big up Priest Isaac. Definitely have to shout out. He's doing some powerful works on his platform as well. But yes, iridical, extingency, and what was the other one? The Truths and Rights. Yes. So these are 3 leadership examples. Any other sounds, please, family?
Yeah, give thanks for that very strong reasonings I would just like to add that I am in agreement that these years of coming up to the invasion and the invasion itself, we really get to see Empress Menen come into her own. Now, we know that on the eve of the war, she gives on September 11th, which may not be also September 11th in Ethiopia, but for when the sound comes to the United States and outside of Ethiopia, it is September 11th, and I don't think that date is coincidental. She gives this sound where she says, countries are coming to take over my country under the fallacious pretext of civilization. So, His Majesty is extremely diplomatic, and you really just got to admire the way he handles his known enemies in public. But Empress Menen is what I call machete-tongued. This sister is out there cutting and blazing. May God help us. May God save us from such civilization. It's clear, like you're not fooling anybody. We know what you're really doing, right? And we know that once the emperor is tied to the battlefield in 1936, Empress Menen is complete head of state. She is doing every operation of the state. So when you look at the news articles from those times, and also though not really mentioned in her biography, you see the pictures, especially in the London press from those times, you can see that she didn't rule alone. She had Emperor Menelik's other daughters with her, because part of the role of the emperor was to receive the will of the people, the things they had wrong in their communities, things that they needed settled. They had to hear the voice of the people. This was more than Empress Menen could do by herself. She picked a party to do this with her. I mean, come on collaboration. This is understood that we're going to have to delegate some of this for this to work. In 1936, and she tells Sylvia Pankhurst, His Majesty was in daily contact with me. Yes. Him being in Wallow, right, was sending me information every day about the updates on the war. She is fully clear when His Majesty is at Machau and faces that obliterating battle where just about everyone around him falls. Yes. Information is sent regularly to Empress Menen. Empress Menen decides, I'm not going to be quiet on this. 1936, she gives her second big speech that is, she invites the world press. She says, no longer am I going to trust BBC to beam out my voice and CBS. I'm going to go through Moscow because they blocked me the first time, right? I'm going to go through Moscow. You see somebody extremely politically savvy here. Sending her voice through Moscow, it will get blocked, but she sent it a different route, trying to get around Europeans, right? And she just decimates them. She calls them by name. England, France, what kind of nation are you? Call yourself friends of Ethiopia. Where is your loyalty? Come to the aid of my nation while you still can. You say you stand for justice. You say you stand for liberty. I don't think that the word prophetic only means having the ability to see what will happen in the future. I also hold that being prophetic is the ability to interpret the present and to say with power what's up. And to have the courage to say it. And the press said that there was tears in her eyes. And I mean, this is a woman who has heard from her husband that my elite guard has fallen. My elite guard has fallen. The men that were with me have fallen. The majority of them have fallen. I'm en route back to Addis Ababa. We probably gonna have to leave. She's heard that, and she comes out to fire them. She said until they picked up their devilish tactics, like spraying us with this poisonous liquid that makes our skin bubble up, they were losing this war, and they know it. And they took on things that violated the conventions of war. What we know to be the conventions of war has been in violation. Let's talk about, she said, the fact that you all put an arms embargo on us. You were allowing them to arm up. And even despite that, we were winning. She said, even if we lose, we deserve to win. We put everything out front. I have not seen someone, even now, with the courage to speak to the world that way. Not your, school district, not the U.S. government, the world.
Yes.
The world. And even when they blocked her, the very next day, they put her words in the paper. They put her
And
words in the paper, And so we see very, very courageous women. When they had to flee Ethiopia, and I'll say this and allow others to jump in. When they had to flee Ethiopia, Malakul Bayan really records this. And he says, His Majesty was extremely concerned about Her Majesty, saying, I must get back to Addis before the Italian party gets to Addis Ababa, because they're going to try to take the Empress as prize. And, they're hot on foot to get to Addis first, ahead of their enemies. And he gets there and he really feels like maybe we can reorganize. And his counselor's like, no, shut it down. We got to get out of here. And they're on the train now, headed out to Djibouti, to then take the next leg of the journey. And Malakul Bayan says that as soon as the mountains of Ethiopia slipped out of view, His Majesty felt such a great despair. And he said it was really Empress Menen that night who spoke and prayed and chanted and brought up the king and put the crown back on his head, saying, you left nothing behind you, right? You have not abdicated. You didn't leave your people. We are seeking another way out. He said she picked up the whole party because people were hurt in their heart to know that you've been crowned King of Kings and now you have to decide to go. And I'm saying unbelievable strength. When His Majesty says at the end of her life, she never lost faith, not even in the darkest hour. To me, I mean, those words may sound light, but he watched her go through the storm. And he looked in her eyes and checked, if I might imagine out loud, is she weak? Is she falling apart? And she was firm for him. I love that. I just think it's an example that we need to follow.
Mighty. Dr. Wolete.
Yes, I give thanks for that. I was just going to say, and that's without the 7 oils. and the eyes know, Kadamawi, Girmawi, Haile Selassie I is I and I Father. So I'm taking nothing away from the symbolism, but that is without the 7 oils. Imagine if the Empress had gotten the oils. She'll cramp and paralyze, okay?
Yes, family. So you see, we're going deep into the history. This is a beautiful manifestation for this platform, and I think for the Rastafari family, we're gonna do this every year, where we have this type of panel to talk about our divine mother. I want to touch. Iras had asked earlier to touch on the divinity of Empress Menen. Can we just take some time and go into the divinity of Empress Menen?
Well, I like to, begin from a very basic understanding of that. I think, first of all, we need to rework our definition of divinity. Just because we changed the D to an I and call it I-vinity, I think that we're still dealing with divinity based on a Eurocentric ideology, okay, or notion. So I think that's the first thing. And if we look at I-vinity from an African perspective, divine beings also had human forms. Divine beings also had human ways and mannerisms. That's what made them so attractive. Some people say that man has created God. You understand that, African people, they create beings or divine beings that represent and reflect who they are, so they're always in sync with one another. So I think that, so when you look at it from that perspective and you realize that we're not talking about somebody who floats on air. We're not talking about somebody who's in multiple spaces at one time. We're just not talking about that, right? We're not talking about that for Empress Menen. Neither are we talking about that for Kadamawi Haile Selassie either. Okay? So that being said, Empress Menen's identity comes from her righteousness. You understand? Comes from her perfection. You understand? All of these things that Haile Selassie the First, he tells you why she's divine. She doesn't possess malice. You understand? She is, when he says that she's as faithful to me as Sarah. I always, the jazz match, I have reasoned about this idea of what that means, obedient to me. And when we look at the story of Sarah, we see that she wasn't obedient in the typical sense of the word. She was a protector, honestly, because she protected her husband from being slave when Pharaoh desired her. So what she did was she lied for her husband in order to save his life. So if that is what obedient means, then that means you're simply a protector, you know? So, I mean, this whole idea of seeing her as, like I said, this type of ethereal being that, you know, doesn't possess a physical form, and all of these things that, you know, Babylon has told us, I think are misnomers. And I think until we start to look at identity through an African-centered lens, then we will always have trouble identifying her identity. And also, I think that when we consider divine sources, that we again have to go and we have to look at ancient Kush. We cannot look at her as through a Christian lens. We're not going to find the lioness of Judah in there. We're going to find only the lion. We're not going to find anything about her in Revelation chapter 5. So if we're trying to measure her identity against that of His Majesty, it's not going to work, because the Rastafari liberty never included her as divine in the beginning in the first place. So they didn't find any biblical justification for her identity. I, as her children, have to go back to the source. Empress Menen's identity, or the search for it, will require that you know African history or her story in order to be able to validate it.
Give thanks, give thanks. And we have 39 people. That's a new record for the live. The sistren them are bringing out the family. If you're not subscribed to the platform, make sure you subscribe. We are building Rastafari independent media. We are not a footnote over here. We are talking about what we want to talk about. If we want to talk about Empress Menen for a couple hours, we do that. That is what we do on Rastafari independent media. We give thanks for everyone tuning in live and the hundreds that will tune in to the replay. We're talking about the divinity, divinity of Empress Menen. The floor is open. Any other sounds?
I was just going to block, you know, that was a very pertinent sound that Rasses blocked, because the other part of it is that the sound that she blocked many years ago, and there is no Jah without a Jahess, right? There's no God without a goddess, no priest without a priestess, no prophet without a prophetess. I always say there is nothing that I can think of in iration that is not balanced. There is everything balanced in iration. If we look at the flowers, the trees, everything, there is a male and a female, or a balance. It's not different for Rastafari. This is, you know, this is the moment in I's liberty that I have termed the reckoning. This is the reckoning. When I walk through the doors of Ite School and Green, and I hail Kadamawi as the highest high, as I father of iration, I bow down and give all the glory. But as Irids evolve, see, the earth is evolving and coming forward to its ancient glory. It's circular and it moves, it spins on its axis, and it comes full circle. And the Rastafari, are at the gates of the reckoning. That's another interview, Jahzani.
Yeah, man. You're due, for an interview. So we're gonna definitely, and it's almost 10 o'clock. These are hardworking sistren. They all work, so I cannot keep them for extended time. So we're gonna be wrapping up. If you have any questions, I want to open up the comment section. If there are any questions, we'll do another 10 minutes. But again, these sistren them have to wake up early. They have things. It's a Thursday. I'm very respectful. That's why I get the big guests that you see here. You see, because I know Rasa is shaking her head. I get the big guests because I respect their time, family. So we're not going to keep them much longer. Please, if you have any questions, put them. If you're not subscribed to the platform, subscribe to the platform. Tomorrow, I am dropping a big interview from St. Croix, Sister Aisha, who is the Assistant Commissioner in the Department of Agriculture. Myself and Dr. Wolete, we had the opportunity to go to her office. We interviewed her, got her story. We have Rastafari that are in government running budgets, multi-million-dollar budgets in agriculture and servicing the island of St. Croix, St. John, and St. Thomas. So big up Sister Aisha for all of the work she's doing. That interview is going to drop tomorrow. So make sure that you subscribe to the platform. This whole month, the whole month of March, we had sistren from Queen Shelley, Mama Fire, Empress Sharon. We had Queen Yvonne, Hope. We had so many powerful sistren for the month, and we're not gonna stop hearing the Lioness voice here. I'm committed to continuing with the Lion voice. So, okay, we have a question here, and this is just as you see, we can't do everything in such a short time. The 2 hours flew by. Okay, this is the great Queen Mother Moses, the most traveled human being maybe on the planet. I can't even put her in Rastafari anymore. Dr. Wolete, I know them did know say the Empress of Zion power needed no anointing because her power was in the restoration of the divinity of the matriarch coronation of oneness, male and female. Beautiful. And I'm gonna bring a panel discussion because I want to have this discussion, because I see its thing. But tonight we're just focusing on Empress Menen. I want to know, in the house dynamics, how we are going to balance two heads in every household. That's the conversation that we're gonna have. That's for another time. Give thanks for such a powerful and passionate word sound from I Sistren. Africa First is Imperial Majesty Haile Selassie the First, Empress Menen Itige, the perfect balance. Give thanks, John Marcus, Naya Bingi. Greetings, family. Give thanks for the word sound, Empresses. I in the Bahamas, celebrating Empress Menen Earthstrong this Sunday, honoring Rastafari Empresses who contributed Empress Menen works. And I think it's important for us to really highlight that this is an uprising that's happening with Rastafari all over the world. I want to big up Empress Sharon, Empress Menen Rising. They did a big event in Trinidad. She sent me some pictures. I'm going to highlight some of that I'm going to highlight some of that on the Lion Voice this Saturday. I have some images straight from Trinidad from Empress Sharon. So Empress Menen is getting her due, and I know it'll only increase. I'm going to give our sistren the chance to give some final word sound. Ras Maisha, big up yourself. Speak on Empress Menen and other husbands. We're going to have to stick a pin. We did touch on it earlier, but I have to seal the show. We have had these sistren here for 2 hours, and I try to keep the show to 2 hours. We're going to go a little bit over, but I want to, if we open up that topic there, that is a topic that needs. But Dr. Wolete did touch on the husbands. So if you play the replay, you will see that we did touch on each of the husbands earlier. So I want to just give an opportunity today. What are the lessons that we can learn, for the young sistren who are watching, for the brethren who are watching? What are the takeaways from Empress Menen that we can translate? I'm going to give each of the item, and then also let people know how they can tap into you. We have 3 authors here. They have books. Please, family, don't just type and you say you love them. Spend some money with these authors. Buy their books. They have products. Each of them have their own ecosystems. Lalabella Institute. Check them out. Dr. Wolete, Dr. Asantewaa, they all have websites. They all have products and services. Let us circulate the Rastafari dollar, family, and support our creators who are adding value to our lives. All right, so takeaways, final sounds, and how they can tap in to the item. The floor is open.
I would like to start to say that let's think about Empress Menen amongst the greats who walk this planet. I mean, I don't want her to ever again amongst Rastafari people and others, Pan-Africanists, to be seen as someone who stands in the shadow of someone else. I want to end by saying that at the end of her Earth Tribe, Emperor Haile Selassie donated money, the 5,000 pounds, to the Nobel Prize Foundation in Empress Menen's name, with the first donation of money going to a Parisian, someone in Paris who opened the Parisian Institute of Ethiopian Studies. I believe that her other honor, called the Itegi Menen Imperial Spouse Award for Ethiopian Studies, went to Professor Leo Hansberry, the father of Black studies in the United States. So he definitely didn't see her as someone standing in the shadow. I don't know, and I will wait and stand to be corrected, of another woman who has a Nobel Prize named after her. I don't know of any, and so definitely if we just follow the emperor, we see this esteemed woman who in every way upheld Ma'at. I'm not saying did she do anything wrong. People ask me that all the time. Who am I? I don't know. I am saying that did she uphold Ma'at, truth, justice, righteousness in her lifetime? Well, that's enough. You know what I'm saying? And nothing else needs to be added. When we look at her legacy, truth, justice, righteousness, beauty, it's all there. So come on, there's a groundswell. Let us not be a community that is not part of recognizing this divine feminine. And if you want to reach me, menenchronicles.com, and on menenchronicles.com, you can actually get an email to me. So yeah, I look forward to continuing this conversation here and elsewhere. You know what I'm saying? We can't spend enough time speaking about the Empress. Give thanks for this opportunity, for being able to present with the other panelists. It's really been a blessing. Give thanks.
And we're going to be reaching out to the eye so you can tell your own story. These 2 powerful matriarchs here have already had their Lion Talk interviews, but we haven't heard from the eye. So the eye will definitely get a call so that we can feature the eye and the powerful works that the eye is doing in Chicago. So give thanks for coming forward. Dr. Wolete, I can block.
Yes, I. These are very exciting times. It's, it's a long time coming, this glory, Empress Menen being placed. Okay. Placed on high, given her just due. Give her due. She's getting her due. I'm thankful for the works that everyone is doing around highlighting the Empress and really walking in her perfect example. I can be reached through email, lovefire, LOVEFYAH @yahoo.com. And my 3 works are Guragi, 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 the story of a willow princess, Yeshimabet Ali Abba Jifar, and this is the work on His Majesty's mother. Also, charting the matriarchal shift in the Rastafari movement, and my soon-to-be published 3rd work, Rastafari Women as Living Sanctuaries. So drop an email to I, and I'm pretty responsive to email, and the eyes can get access to the works through there. I'm also on the iDoor study group every other Satup. I believe I and I are meeting this Satup, the iDoor study group, where I and I read the words of His Imperial Majesty, read from the selected speeches, and I are currently reading in African Affairs. So give thanks for the opportunity. It was a mighty presentation to my sisters that sit up with I and I. Give thanks.
Give thanks to the I, Dr. Wolete. She is a member of the Lion Pride on Patreon as well. And as I say, one of I and I greatest supporters. So I definitely always have to salute the kindness, and also my travel partner too. We do road and go to different functions and things. So definitely give thanks, Dr. Wolete. Dr. Rastafari Jahzani Kush.
Yes, I would like to say to the audience to seek Her Majesty in the present. You understand? Not to see her as past tense. You understand? Not to see her as even having transitioned. You understand? Because I know say Karamawi Haile Selassie I lives forever, and so does his divine consort. So, because when you see her in that light, then you feel her. You are able to connect with her. And one of the ways that I and I connect with her every year is through the Blue Fire I Treat, named in her honor. And I want to say that for there are several sistren who are in the chat who have been a part of that I Treat. If you want to feel Empress Menen's energy, right, and her synergy with her daughters, that is one place to do that. We all leave that I Treat feeling mobilized, feeling like we're ready, we're charged. Empress Menen provides I and I with a charge. And so I know a lot of times when ones are trying to understand her identity and ones are trying to understand how to connect with her, if you have not been taught how to do that, or if you don't feel that internally within yourself, then you might want to congregate with your sistren and seat up in Jerusalem schoolroom, where she is the focus, where her blue fire is the focus. So I encourage ones to reach out and to participate in that. And so I can be reached at lalabella.org@gmail.com, and that's my email address. Or I can be reached at my website, which is lalabellainstitute.org and lalabellainstitute.com. Yes, sir.
And we give thanks. And I saved the I for the final sign off, because I also wanted that to just give a brief little touch on how this year's I Treat went. I know you're just fresh. We can see the glow of the eye and Dr. Wolete in the eye treat glow. So how did this year go? Any highlights that I want to share?
Oh, it was I was told, because I have the role of attendee and host, but from the participants' perspective, they said it was the best one yet. You understand? So that puts a lot of pressure on you understand, to keep it up. But it was absolutely phenomenal. Every year we have new sistrens who come, and I pride myself in making certain that those new sistren feel at home, that when they leave that 3-day I treat, that they feel as if they have sisters for life. And because this was the first year that the sistrens crossed over into their ascension, it was wonderful to have those participants. Actually, they didn't witness the actual ascension process. That was done behind closed doors, but they were able to hail those sistrens with their Haile title of Rasses once they emerge from their initiation. So it was very, very powerful. And I just encourage, I encourage my brethren who supported to keep supporting, because while they can't attend the I treat, they can sponsor sistrens. We had scholarships. Thankfully, we had several sistren who, based on the donations of brethren, were able to have scholarships to attend the I treat.
Give thanks, and again, we'll give thanks for all of the powerful works that all of our sistren them are doing. We give thanks that the Queen of Kings, to use the terminology, and Dr. James Small also speaks about how that the woman king title was used on the continent, and what it speaks of. So I learned a lot. I feel my cup is full this evening, and I hope that everyone watching, if you're new, I hope that you subscribe to the channel, and I hope that you now see the value of Rastafari having our own independent media, controlling our own narrative, not just projecting, smoking big spliffs, run out on a stage. Yes, we love that part too, and we can do that too, but there's so much more to Rastafari culture and Rastafari family. This is what I fell in love with, or stood in love with, as a young university student coming into the movement, was the reasonings. A reasoning like this would go to the daylight sometime, and we would go back and forth. We'd pull out books with this, with that, and it'd get passionate, this, that. That's what I love, and this is what we want to preserve as we move into this information age and as we trod this repatriation Iowa. Why? Because the time has come for the Lions and the Lionesses to tell our own story. And this is the Lion's voice. Ilai.
I'm Nana Farika. The time has come for the lioness to tell her story from her viewpoint and tell the world who Queen Omega is. This is the lion's voice.
The time has come for the lioness to tell her own story.
Well, lion voice, tell them that's the people first choice. Lion voice, when the lioness them feel nice. Lion voice, with the lion cubs we sacrifice. Lion voice, got to show the people them the life. Lion voice.
Well, Haile Selassie the first of the Almighty, and this is the chance match Kwasi, and the mission, that's the restoration of the black family. Yeah. Who ja bless me, say no one curse. Black woman, it's time to merge. Black redemption, we're on the verge. Well, I don't care what you heard. Haile Selassie first, him no second or third. Cause even when their lines are blurred, the eyes stand straight, no bend, no curve.
and him give you the love you deserve. Him don't come fi dominate, him come fi serve. Showed us the way home, I live his words, but I can't do it alone, so black woman, let's merge. Heital, sip and herbs, we merge. Massage fi calm her nerves, we merge. Together all demon purge, we merge. Another family emerge, we merge. We spoke and no speech was slurred, we merge. We agreed that Babylon's absurd, we merge. We had pain, now we feel cured, we merge. Hail the king, now she conquered. Well, I don't care what you heard. Haile Selassie first, him no second or third. Cause even when their lines are blurred, the